The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. This video is made for educational purposes only. This book is about understanding and navigating resistance, upper limits, and uprooting in our journey toward personal growth. It guides readers to recognize the signals our bodies and minds send us, helping us move through discomfort with compassion and clarity. Ultimately, it's about learning to show up for ourselves and embracing the process of becoming. Brianna talks about resistance. She says resistance is when you feel like stopping or not wanting to try something new. It's not just laziness or not caring. It's your brain trying to protect you. Sometimes it's a sign that something isn't right and you need to take a break. But you can't push through resistance. If you try, it gets worse. Instead, you need to figure out what you really want, when you want it, and why. You have to look at your beliefs that are stopping you. Once you understand that, you can go back to working on your goals when you feel ready. Wanting is the first step to taking action after resistance. Then Brianna talks about your upper limit. She says most people have a limit to how much happiness they can handle. Gay Hendricks calls it your upper limit. It's the amount of good things you're okay with in your life. When you start to feel too much happiness, you might start to sabotage things to feel more normal. This can show up in different ways. Some people feel physical pain, others feel emotional resistance, anger, guilt, or fear. It's not easy to feel happy all the time. We're built to be comfortable, not happy. Anything that feels too good can feel scary until we get used to it. Brianna says when you hit your upper limit, it's actually a good thing. It means you're growing and moving forward in life. You should feel proud. But you need to handle it carefully. Instead of making big, fast changes, you should take small steps. This helps you get used to the new things in your life. Over time, you start to feel more comfortable with the good things you're experiencing. You're not just chasing happiness anymore. You're building a life you actually enjoy. But there's another problem called uprooting. This happens when someone keeps changing jobs, moving houses, or starting new relationships all the time. They never settle down. They're always looking for a fresh start, but they never really finish one. This is usually because they're avoiding the real issues in their life. Instead of dealing with problems, they keep running away. They might be scared of conflict or stressed out all the time. Uprooting keeps them stuck in a cycle of starting over, but they never really grow. They're always just beginning but never really finishing. Brianna talks about how to stop uprooting. She says the first thing you need to do is notice that you're doing it. You might not even realize you're always moving or changing jobs. She tells you to look back and count how many times you've moved or started something new. Then think about why you left each place or job. Maybe you were running from something or not sure what you wanted. She says you need to figure out what you really want. Sometimes people jump into things too fast and later realize they don't want them. Clarity is important because you're trying to build a life, not just chase something temporary. She says you should think about staying in one place, building real connections, or growing in your job. Healing isn't about staying in a bad situation or settling for less. It's about knowing what you want and making a plan to get there. When you feel uncomfortable staying in one place, she says you should face that discomfort and try to stay. You need to understand why you avoid getting attached and what a healthy way to stay would look like for you. Brianna says you don't have to be perfect when you start. Just do what you want, even if it's not great at first. She talks about writing a book or making music. You don't need to worry about being the best or making something that changes the world. What matters is that you show up and try. You can always improve later. She says people often hold back because they're scared of failing or not being good enough. But the truth is, you can't grow if you don't start. She encourages you to just begin, even if it feels messy or uncertain. From there, You can learn and make it better over time. She also talks about how people sometimes can't handle their emotions. If you can only feel half of what you're feeling, you end up avoiding things that could help you grow. You start to stay away from situations that might make you feel sad, angry, or confused. But if you don't learn to process all your emotions, you get stuck and miss out on the full life you're meant to live. So she says you need to learn to feel and deal with everything, good and bad, so you can move forward. Brianna talks about how to deal with your emotions when they're hard to handle. She says the first step is to understand what's going on. You need to figure out why you're upset or why something is bothering you so much. If you don't get clear on that, you'll keep thinking about it without really knowing why it hurts. Next, she says you have to accept how you feel. She says it's okay to feel sad, angry, or confused. You're not alone, and those feelings are normal. She gives examples like crying, shaking, writing in a journal, or talking to someone you trust. Once you understand what's going on and you've let your emotions out, you can decide how to change your actions or thoughts so you can get the result you want. Brianna also talks about how people often use excuses instead of doing the work. She says it's not about why you didn't do something, but whether you actually did it. If you keep using excuses, you're letting those reasons take over your life instead of your goals. She says you need to stop using excuses and start doing the work that matters. Brianna talks about how to fix things by looking at what you actually do instead of what you plan to do. She says it's not about how much you want to go to the gym or how many ideas you have for your business. It's about how many days you actually showed up and did something. She tells you to stop making excuses and start counting your wins, even small ones. Every day you do something positive, you move closer to your goals. She says if you stop making excuses and start doing, you'll start seeing progress. Then she moves on to talk about how being messy or disorganized is a way of avoiding the hard work you need to do. She says when your space is messy, you are not just being lazy, you're creating chaos that keeps you from getting things done. She explains that a clean, organized space helps you focus and feel better. She says that when you clean up, you might feel uncomfortable because it means you have to start working on what you really need to do. She says that if you want to change your life, you have to stop letting mess and excuses stop you. You have to take control of your space and your actions. You have to show up and do the work. Brianna says if you want to fix your mess, start small. Pick one room or even one corner and focus on that. Make a routine to keep it tidy. Then make your space work for you. Put a calming item on your nightstand or make a family calendar so everyone can see what's coming up. If your mail is a mess, make a spot for it every day. If your laundry is a problem, pick a day to do it all at once. It takes time to get used to a clean desk, but once you do, you'll feel less stressed and more in control. Brianna explains that sometimes we chase goals that aren't really ours. We think we want something because others want it, or because we used to. But if you're not truly wanting it, you'll never feel satisfied. You have to ask yourself if you really want what you're trying to do. Are you doing it for the job or for the title? Are you in love or just liking the idea? Sometimes, self-sabotage is a sign that you're not on the right path. You don't have to live your life chasing goals you thought were cool when you were younger. Your job is to make choices that fit who you are now. Brianna talks about how we sometimes think we know what success looks like, but maybe it's not what we really want. She says it's okay if your idea of success changes over time. Maybe you used to dream about being rich or having a certain job, but now you're more interested in peace, travel, or good relationships. She encourages you to let go of old goals that no longer fit who you are. This takes courage because it means you have to face the possibility that your past dreams might not be the right path anymore. She also talks about how judging others can hurt us more than it hurts them. When we look down on people who are more successful, we start to believe that success is something we should avoid. This makes it harder for us to move forward in our own lives. Brianna gives an example of people who grew up hearing bad things about rich people. They might have thought all rich people were bad, and now they feel guilty or ashamed if they try to build wealth for themselves. These judgments become rules we follow, even when they don't serve us. Brianna talks about how it's hard to let go of old goals because they feel familiar, even if they don't fit who you are now. She says it's not easy to face the idea that your past dreams might not be the right path, but she encourages you to keep looking for what truly makes you happy, even if it's different from what you used to want. She also talks about how pride can stop us from making healthy choices. For example, if a relationship is bad, staying just to avoid shame or looking bad might seem easier than leaving, but it hurts more in the long run. The same goes for starting a business or a project and not wanting to admit you're not enjoying it or need help. Brianna says pride makes us think people will judge us, but in reality, they probably don't care as much as we think. She wants you to stop letting pride control your decisions and start listening to what you really need. Brianna talks about how we often hold on to things that don't serve us because we're afraid of what others might think. She says we need to look at ourselves honestly, not just as perfect people but as real humans who make mistakes and try their best. She says people respect you more when you admit you're not perfect and are willing to grow. She also talks about how it's easy to feel guilty when you start to have more than you need. This guilt can stop you from enjoying your success. People might feel like they don't deserve to be happy or have nice things, even when they've worked hard. Brianna says this guilt comes from thinking we're not allowed to be happy in a world that has so much pain. She encourages you to stop feeling guilty for being successful and to focus on what's right for you. She wants you to let go of old goals that don't fit you anymore and to trust that you're worthy of happiness and growth. Brianna talks about how people who are really successful don't feel guilty about their success. She says that guilt usually happens when you move from not having enough to finally having enough. She explains that money and success are just tools. They give you time back and let you help others, employ people, and make a difference. She wants you to see success as a way to do good, not as a sign that you're better than others. She says it's important to stop seeing success as something that separates you from others and instead use it to make your life and the lives of others better. She also talks about the fear of failing. She says people often don't try things because they're scared of looking bad or failing right away. This fear can stop them from working hard to get good at something. But the fear doesn't just stop there. Once you've achieved something, it can turn into a constant worry that you're missing something, or that your partner is being unfaithful, or that you're about to lose everything. These worries happen when you want to protect yourself from losing what you've worked for. They only come up when you really care about something and want to keep it. Brianna talks about how it's important to tell the difference between failing because you're trying something new and failing because you're not showing up or not doing the work. She says that failing when you're trying hard is actually a good thing because it means you're growing. But failing because you're not trying at all is bad because it means you're not moving forward. She says that people often feel scared to try new things because they're worried about looking bad or failing right away. But she also says that once you've achieved something, you might start to worry about losing it, or maybe even worry that your partner is being unfaithful, or that you're going to lose everything. These worries come from wanting to protect what you've worked for. Brianna says that downplaying your successes is also a problem. People do it because they're afraid others will feel threatened, or because they're scared they've reached the top and won't be able to go any higher. She says that when you feel like you've made it, it can feel like you're standing on a peak and about to fall. So instead of accepting that you've arrived, you look for another goal to chase. She also says that feeling like you're better than others because you've achieved something makes you uncomfortable because it's not true, and it's unkind. Brianna talks about how we can feel stuck in a cycle of fear and self-sabotage. She says that when we're afraid of failing or being seen as too good, we stop trying. But she also says that when we truly work hard and succeed, it's natural to worry about losing what we've gained. That fear can stop us from moving forward. Brianna says we need to change how we see progress. We don't have to keep going from one goal to the next just to feel like we're improving. Instead, we should realize that when we grow in one area, it helps everything else in life. She also talks about how people often hold themselves back by keeping unhealthy habits. For example, someone might want to get healthier but never change their daily routine. Or they might want to move forward in their career but find ways to avoid doing the work. Brianna says this comes from a part of us that knows we should grow, but another part is scared of the change it brings. The key is to notice these habits early and make changes before things get too bad. She encourages people to take control of their lives instead of waiting for a crisis to push them forward. Brianna says we need to decide what health means for ourselves. She says it's not about copying what others do because everyone is different. She says we should think about how we feel and what we enjoy. She says if we want to be healthy, we should pick a mix of things that work for us, like eating right, moving our body, and getting enough sleep. She says it's better to start small and build up over time. She says instead of forcing yourself to do something hard, like a long workout, try doing something easier, like a short walk or a fun class. She says it's important to make things simple so we can stick with them. She also talks about how people often use being busy as a way to avoid facing their real problems. She says being busy is a distraction, not a sign of being important. She says people who are constantly busy are running from themselves. She says being busy can make you feel like you're important, but it also makes your body tired and focused only on work. She says being busy is a way to avoid dealing with what's really going on inside. Brianna talks about how being too busy stops us from being productive. If your day is full of things you don't really need to do, you'll never feel like you're getting anywhere. She says the first step is to make your schedule simpler. Pick the most important tasks and do just those. You can also ask others to help with things you don't have to do. If you're busy on purpose, maybe it's because you feel like you need to be busy to feel important. She says you need to stop using busyness as a way to avoid facing your real feelings. Instead, find ways to feel confident and set clear boundaries in your life. Then she talks about spending time with the wrong people. Some friends or relationships make you feel bad, but you keep coming back because you're used to it. These people might not be toxic, but they still hurt you. If you're always thinking about someone who makes you feel less than, you need to slowly move away from them. You don't have to be mean or cut them out completely, but you do need to realize that the people you hang out with shape your future. Choose your friends carefully. Brianna says the next step is to build a group of friends who really care about you and help you grow. These are the people you can trust and who make you feel good when you're with them. If you're always tired or upset after hanging out with someone, that person probably isn't helping you. It takes time to find the right people, and it doesn't happen overnight. You can start by asking someone you respect if they want to grab a coffee or do something fun together. Be slow and honest about rebuilding your friendships, and make sure you take care of them once they're there. Then she talks about how people often worry about things that are really unlikely to happen. You know those moments when you start thinking about the worst possible thing that could happen, and then you keep thinking about it again and again. These worries are not about real problems. They're about fears that are not going to come true. For example, if you're scared of being in a car, maybe you're really afraid of losing control or not being able to move forward. Or if you're worried about getting fired, maybe you're actually scared of not being good enough or being criticized. These fears are safe because you know they won't really happen. They're just ways to hide the real feelings you're avoiding. Brianna talks about how we often worry about things that probably won't happen. She says these worries are not about real problems, but about fears we're avoiding. For example, if you're scared of being fired, maybe you're really afraid of not being good enough or being criticized. These fears are safe because they won't really happen, but they're hiding the real feelings you're trying to ignore. She explains that instead of trying to control these worst-case scenarios, we should look at what the fear is trying to tell us. Maybe the fear of losing money is about wanting security, or the fear of the future is about not living fully now. She says the key is to figure out what we really care about and find healthier ways to protect it. Then she talks about self-sabotage. She lists some signs that you might be in a self-sabotage cycle. You might be more focused on what you don't want than what you do. You might spend more time trying to impress people who don't like you than being with people who love you. You might be in denial about your life, like not knowing how much debt you have. You might care more about being liked than being happy. You might be afraid of your own feelings more than anything else. You might be chasing goals without knowing why. You might be treating your coping mechanisms as the problem instead of looking at what need they're filling. You might value doubt more than your potential. You might be trying to care about everything, but your willpower is limited. You might be waiting for someone else to give you success instead of building it yourself. And you might not realize how far you've come. She also talks about core commitments and core needs. She says our subconscious commitments are what we want more than anything, but they're often hiding our real needs. Once you understand your core needs, you can stop self-sabotage and start living in line with your true purpose. Brianna talks about how we can stop hurting ourselves by learning to separate our actions from how we feel. She says we're not stuck because we can't change, but because we don't feel like changing. Our feelings are like a comfort system. They make us feel safe when we stay in the same old habits. But sometimes, doing the right thing makes us feel uncomfortable at first, even if it's good for us. The key is to act even when we don't feel like it. Taking action builds momentum and helps us feel motivated later. She reminds us to trust ourselves and to believe that we can do what we need to do, even if we don't feel ready yet. She also explains that our emotions, like anger, sadness, guilt, and shame, are not just problems to avoid. They're messages trying to tell us something important. For example, anger shows us what we care about and where our boundaries are. Sadness is a natural response to loss and helps us process grief. Guilt can help us see when we've hurt others. But it's not always about what we did. It can also come from feeling like we're not good enough. Embarrassment and shame are closely connected, but shame is more about seeing ourselves as bad, which can be really harmful. Jealousy is often a cover for what we really want, and regret is a way to show us what we need to do now instead of being stuck in the past. She encourages us to listen to our emotions, not run from them, and use them as guides to help us change our lives for the better. She talks about how fear often comes from thinking about things we can't control. We imagine if we worry about something, we can stay safe from it. But the truth is, thinking about it a lot makes us feel stuck. It takes away our power because we're focusing on something we can't change. Instead of fighting fear, we should accept it and move forward. When we stop being scared of what we can't control, we realize that the real problem is our own thinking. We're not being ruined by outside forces, but by our own negative thoughts and focus. She reminds us that we are in control of our actions and habits. The real way to overcome fear is to face it and keep going. She also explains that our inner guidance system is trying to tell us what we need to change in our lives. The things that bother us are not punishments, but messages. If we ignore them, they get louder, and we might push them away, which only makes things worse. We already know what we need to do. We just need to quiet our mind enough to hear it. Our needs are valid, like feeling secure, being loved, and feeling safe. We shouldn't feel weak for needing these things. In fact, we need each other to grow and feel happy. We are wired to connect and work together. She lists some common self-sabotaging behaviors and what they might mean. For example, if you keep going back to someone who hurt you, it might mean you need to look at your past relationships. If you're always unhappy despite having everything, you might be relying on outside things for happiness instead of changing your mindset. If you push people away, it might mean you're scared of being accepted or you're not being yourself. These behaviors are actually clues from your subconscious, trying to help you grow. You're learning how to listen to your own inner voice, not just your thoughts. The author talks about how we often misunderstand our instincts. You might think your gut is telling you something about the future, but really, it's just reacting to what's happening now. Your gut isn't psychic. It's just trying to help you make better choices by using all the information your body has stored. But sometimes, we confuse our gut feelings with fear, and that can mess things up. The book explains that your gut is quiet and gentle. It doesn't scream or make you panic. It gives you a calm, clear feeling that something isn't right, or that something is right. If you feel a strong pull to walk away from a situation, that's your gut. It's not about being comfortable, it's about doing what feels right for you, even if it's hard. But here's the catch. Your brain is always trying to predict the future and avoid pain. That's why we sometimes feel like our gut is telling us something about what's going to happen next. But that's not really your gut. It's your imagination, trying to keep you safe. The real trick is to tell the difference between what your gut is telling you in the moment and what your fears are making you believe. You are being taught to trust your gut, but not to let it control everything. Your gut is a guide, not a fortune teller. It helps you choose what you really want, even when it's uncomfortable. The key is to stay present, listen carefully, and not let fear take over. The book talks about two kinds of thoughts, intuitive and invasive. Intuitive thoughts are calm and helpful. They let you know what feels right for you. Invasive thoughts are loud and scary. They make you feel stuck and worried. These thoughts come from your fear, not your real self. Intuitive thoughts help you understand yourself and others. Invasive thoughts make you think other people are out to get you. The real trick is to listen to your gut, not your fear. Your gut is like a quiet guide. It helps you make choices that feel right, even when they're hard. But your brain keeps trying to predict what will hurt you. That's why you might feel scared even when you know what's right. The book explains that self-care is more than just doing things to feel better. It's about meeting your real needs. You need sleep, a clean space, and to feel your feelings without being judged. Taking care of yourself helps you stop hurting yourself. The book also talks about emotional intelligence. It's about knowing your feelings and how to deal with them. People with high emotional intelligence can understand themselves better and get along with others. Self-sabotage happens when we don't understand our emotions. We want something so badly that we can't enjoy it once we get it. We fear losing it, so we push it away. We also get stuck in our heads, thinking we need big changes to feel happy. But real change happens in small steps. You don't wait for a big moment to change. You make little shifts every day. You let your body adjust to your new normal. You trust your gut, not your fear. You take care of yourself, and you let yourself feel what you feel. You don't rush change. You let it happen slowly and steadily. You don't need a big breakthrough. You need small, steady changes. That's how you grow. Ryan Holiday says that big aha moments don't really change your life forever. Real change happens slowly, through small changes in your daily habits. Think of it like a paradigm shift, like how science changes when people start seeing the world differently. These small changes, called micro-shifts, add up over time. For example, if you want to eat healthier, start by drinking a little more water. If you want to sleep more, go to bed a few minutes earlier. These tiny actions become habits. What you do every day shapes your life and your success. It's not about feeling like you want to do something, but actually doing it. The book uses an example. Would you rather have $1 million now or a penny that doubles every day for a month? The penny ends up being worth more. So, making small changes every day is the real way to grow. Your mind is also anti-fragile, which means it gets stronger when faced with challenges. But sometimes, people create problems in their heads because they're not facing real ones. This can lead to anxiety and fear. When you make a big change, like getting a new job or starting a relationship, it can feel uncomfortable. This is called adjustment shock. It's normal to feel anxious or irritable when things change. But this discomfort is part of the process. The key is to stay engaged with what you can control and keep moving forward. Psychic thinking, like assuming you know what others are thinking, is harmful. It leads to anxiety and makes you feel stuck. Instead, trust yourself and focus on what you can do. The book says your gut is actually connected to your brain, and the bacteria in your stomach can sense things your mind can't. Your gut feelings are real, but sometimes people confuse them with fear or just random thoughts. If they believe every gut feeling is important, they can get stuck and stop growing. The book explains that this is called psychic thinking. It's when you think you know what others are thinking or what's going to happen. This kind of thinking is based on cognitive biases, like confirmation bias. Your brain is always getting a lot of information, but you only notice about 10% of it. The rest is processed by your subconscious. What you notice depends on what you already believe. Your brain filters out stuff that doesn't match your ideas and pays more attention to what supports them. This makes it hard to see new things or change your mind. The book says this kind of thinking can stop you from growing and make you feel stuck. It's important to be aware of these patterns so you can make better choices. The book talks about a way people look at the future. It's called extrapolation. This is when you take what's happening now and think it will always be like that. For example, if you're feeling stressed or worried right now, you might think that feeling will never go away. But the book says that's not true. It's easy to get stuck thinking that way because you're not seeing the bigger picture. You're only looking at what's right in front of you. Ryan Holiday says something important. This moment is not my life. It is a moment in my life. The book explains that when you think like this, you're not giving yourself a chance to grow or change. You're setting yourself up for a problem that might never happen. This kind of thinking can make you feel stuck and stop you from moving forward. It's important to realize this so you can start seeing things differently and not let your current situation control your future. The book talks about how we think the world is all about us. We believe people are always watching us, always judging us, and that our actions are on display for others to see. But the truth is, people aren't paying that much attention to us. We remember the last few times we messed up, but others don't. That's called the spotlight effect. It makes us feel like the whole world is focused on us, when it's not. This kind of thinking, along with other mental habits, can lead to anxiety and wrong ideas about the future. Anxiety often comes from not thinking clearly. We imagine the worst things could happen and get scared, but we're not really thinking through the situation. We jump to the worst-case scenario and then get nervous. That's called a logical lapse. It's like when you're scared of something and your brain starts to imagine the worst, even when there's no real danger. Some people are really smart, but even they can make mistakes in thinking. They might assume things that aren't true or jump to conclusions based on a little bit of evidence. These are called faulty inferences. They can make us worry more than we need to. The book says we don't need to avoid what makes us anxious. Instead, we should learn to think clearly and calmly. We can do this by noticing when we're making wrong assumptions and changing how we think. It takes time and practice, but it's possible. We can train our brains to think more logically, not dramatically. Worrying isn't a bad thing. It's a way our brains try to protect us. But it can backfire if we let it control our thoughts. The key is to stop imagining the worst and start seeing the truth. We can do this by being aware of our thinking and choosing to believe we can handle whatever comes our way. The book explains that worrying is a natural reaction, but it doesn't have to control us. Sometimes, we think about the worst things that could happen, even when there's no real danger. This is called a logical lapse. It's like when your brain gets scared and starts imagining bad things without thinking clearly. Even smart people can make these mistakes, like assuming things that aren't true or jumping to conclusions. The key is to notice when we're doing this and change how we think. It takes practice, but it's possible. Worrying isn't bad, but it can backfire if we let it run our lives. The book says we should stop imagining the worst and start seeing the truth. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, we should imagine how someone else would handle the situation. We can even think of it as an opportunity to create something new. The goal isn't to avoid fear, but to build self-esteem and realize that even if we fail, we're not judged or hated. We don't need to balance out the bad with the good to live a full life. We are allowed to be at peace and have everything we want. The book also talks about letting go of the past. We can't force ourselves to forget or move on, no matter how much we want to. Letting go happens when we start building a new life. It's not about stopping caring, but about creating something new and meaningful. Sometimes, letting go means crying, falling apart, and rebuilding piece by piece. Over time, the past becomes a memory, something we can smile about. We can release old emotions by re-entering them through memory and imagining our younger self being guided by our wiser, happier self. By changing how we see the past, we can change our present and step into a future full of possibility. You are not broken for feeling the way you do. The book says you responded to your situation like any healthy person would. You felt the same things others would feel in the same spot. You moved on because you had to, but you're still here, still remembering. That's a sign you're healing, more willing to face the past than you think. You're not the person you were, even though parts of you are still there. You're not broken for being in pain, you're seeing yourself out of it. The book also talks about how we often look for happiness only after we fix everything. But that's not real healing. Real change happens when you start showing up as you are, even if you don't look exactly the way you want. You change your life when you stop chasing perfection and start living in the present. You change your life when you love yourself, even with your flaws. You change your life when you treat others the way you treat yourself, whether they're a stranger or a boss. You change your life when you stop trying to fix everything and just be. The truth is, most of the problems we face are distractions. The real problem is that we're not comfortable being who we are right now. We run from discomfort, but that's where the real healing starts. You have to sit with the fear, feel it, move through it. You have to let it be. That discomfort is the real issue, and everything else is just a symptom. Once you're okay with who you are, everything else follows. So, here's what happens next. The book explains that people often try to fix their problems by focusing on something else. Like, if you're hurt from a bad relationship, you might try to make yourself feel safe by saving a lot of money or working hard to get a better job. But that doesn't really solve the real problem. The real issue is that you're not comfortable with who you are right now. You're running from your feelings, and that's where the real healing starts. You have to sit with your fear, feel it, and let it go. That discomfort is what's really holding you back. The book also talks about how emotions get stuck in our bodies. Like, if you're sad or angry, your body might hold on to that feeling in your chest, your shoulders, or your neck. It's like your body is trying to tell you something. But if you don't let those feelings out, they stay inside and can cause more problems. The author says emotions are physical, just like sweat or tears. You have to release them somehow, or they'll stay trapped. There are ways to start letting go. One is to stop trying to calm yourself down and just sit with your feelings. Another is to do a breath scan to find where in your body you're holding tension. You can also move your body, cry, or do something that helps you feel what you're feeling. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Real healing isn't about being happy all the time. It's about being honest with yourself, feeling everything, and not running from it. That's how you start to change your life for the better. You finally understand that no one else can save you. You have to do the hard work of healing yourself. This is what life is really about. When you start this work, you find a strength you didn't know you had. You realize you have power and control over your life. You can make choices that shape your future. You learn that instead of focusing on what you can't control, you can build your life on what you can do. When you heal, you become stronger where you were broken. You become grounded where you were too proud. You become responsible where you were careless. You grow more aware, more caring, more thoughtful. But you don't need to be more afraid. Fear won't protect you. Action will. Worrying won't help. Preparing will. Overthinking won't save you. Understanding will. Holding on to fear and pain after something bad happens is like trying to use a safety net. But it doesn't work. It makes you less able to deal with real problems. You forget about your health, your relationships, your future, your money, and your mind. When you truly heal, you stop putting up with discomfort. You notice when something is wrong and you fix it because you've seen what happens when you don't. You start thinking ahead, considering cause and effect. You realize your actions create results, and if you want more control over your life, you need to change your habits. You learn that nothing matters more than being present and enjoying your life right now. Whatever is stopping you from being here and now is the challenge you have to face. Life is short and temporary. Clinging too tight doesn't make it safer. When it's gone, you'll realize you never truly enjoyed it. Healing is about choosing to value your life right now more than anything else. Real change isn't about proving others wrong. It's about feeling so happy and hopeful about your future that you stop thinking about the past. When you change your life to look different, you're still focused on others' opinions. But real growth is about how things feel, not how they look. A real change is honest, not fake. It's about healing, about becoming better, about living for yourself. Anyone can fake a better image. Anyone can look better with filters and photos. But real change is about self-respect, real relationships, freedom, clarity, and purpose. You don't need to prove you're better than you were before. You just need to feel better. Life isn't about before and after. It's about being in the process of becoming. There's no moment where someone sees you and finally understands you're thriving. That moment is only for you, and you alone. No one is looking at you the way you think they are. They're looking at themselves. This is your freedom. Your growth is for you. Your change is yours. This is about you becoming the person you know you can be. It's about living up to your potential. But mostly, it's about you realizing you weren't your best self before. You didn't act the way you wished. You didn't do what you should have. You weren't what you hoped you'd be. So when you want to prove someone else wrong, you're really trying to quiet your own disappointment. So remember this. When you're trying to make a story about your glow-up that others will like, ask yourself why you're still waiting for their approval. The answer is probably that you still don't have your own. You're told to imagine sitting down with yourself from 3, 5, or even 7 years ago. That person is still you, but you've changed a lot. You picture a place you used to go or live. You hand them your keys, your phone, your bank account, or maybe your wedding ring. You give them all the tools and information they need to move from who they were to who you are now. You can also imagine your future self giving you things from your life now, like a home or a job. This exercise is supposed to make you feel calm, confident, and sure of yourself. Fear is just a trick your mind plays. Your future self can remind you of all that's possible and help you live with clarity and grace. Then you're told about trauma. If something scares you and you can't get over it, you become traumatized. Trauma is when you feel disconnected from safety, especially if it starts with your primary caretaker. But trauma can come from many things. It lives in your body, not just your mind. You feel it in your muscles, your heart, your stomach. It shows up as anxiety, fear, sadness, or guilt. You might overreact to things, even when problems are fixed. You don't know why. Trauma is real, and it's stored in your cells. But you can use your body to heal. The first step is to figure out what caused it. You learn that trauma is more than just a bad memory. It lives in your body, in the way your muscles feel, your heart races, or your stomach knots. It's not just what happened, but how your body remembers it. When something scary happens, your body tightens up to protect you, like a broken leg gets wrapped in a cast. But that tightness can stop you from moving forward. To heal, you have to feel into your body and notice where you're holding on. You have to slowly let go, like unclenching your fists. Healing trauma isn't just about talking about it, it's about working with your body to release the tension. When you feel scared or anxious, you take deep breaths to calm yourself. You use whatever helps: breathing, sleeping, water, or even scents. You have to bring your body out of panic mode. Then, you work on rebuilding trust. If your trauma is about relationships, you need to build healthy ones. If it's about money, you need to get better with it. You don't run from what you fear. You face it. Because underneath the fear, there's often something you really want. You can't just think your way out of trauma. You have to feel it, work with it, and let it go. You learn that to really heal from trauma, you have to stop trying to read the future or know what others are thinking. You stop pretending you can control everything. When you're scared, you're not seeing the whole picture. You're just imagining the worst. That kind of thinking makes fear grow and keeps you stuck. You're not a fortune teller. You don't know what's coming next, but you do have control over what you do right now. The biggest fears you have are usually just guesses. They're not real things waiting to happen. They're just ideas you made up. Trauma isn't just for people who are broken. Everyone has some kind of trauma, but how you deal with it matters. How you grow from it decides your life. To become your most powerful self, you have to think about who you want to be. You imagine that person. You ask, what would that person do today? You picture how they'd handle challenges, how they'd feel, how they'd move forward. That person is in charge of your life. They make the big decisions. You work for them. Once you know who that person is, you look at what's holding you back. What habits or thoughts are stopping you from being that person? You start changing those things. You start becoming the person you're meant to be. You start to notice the parts of yourself that hold you back. You see that it's not about being perfect or pretending you're strong all the time. Real strength is knowing where you're weak and being honest about it. Powerful people don't ignore their flaws. They look at them and say, I need to work on this. You learn that it's okay to be bad at some things. You don't have to do everything perfectly. You can ask for help or take your time. You can be kind to yourself when you're struggling. This kind of honesty helps you grow. It lets you move forward instead of staying stuck. You start to feel more in control because you're not hiding from your weaknesses anymore. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to be better. You're trying to be the person you want to be. And that makes all the difference. You start to realize that being powerful isn't about being liked by everyone. Real power isn't about making people happy or getting their approval. Powerful people don't chase after what others think. They do what they believe is right, even if it means some people don't like them. You learn that people will always have opinions, and some will even criticize you. But powerful people don't let that stop them. They know that being disliked is part of the journey. They understand that if you're doing something important, you'll face resistance. So you stop worrying about what others think and just keep going. You start to act like someone who knows what they're doing, even when it's hard. You stop trying to please everyone and start trusting yourself. You begin to feel more confident because you're not letting fear of being disliked hold you back. You're choosing to be real, even if it means some people won't like you. That's what makes you strong. You start to see that being powerful is about doing what matters, not just what feels good in the moment. You learn to think about the bigger picture, not just what you want right now, but what you want to leave behind. You begin to imagine the kind of life you want to create, not just for yourself, but for others. This is your purpose, and it's not something you just find, it's something you build. It comes from where you're curious, where you're skilled, and where the world needs help. You start to notice that when you're clear about what you want to create, you feel more in control of your life. You stop chasing what others want and start chasing what you know is right for you. You realize that your power grows when you're honest about who you are and what you want to do. You stop trying to fit in and start trying to make an impact. That's how you start to live with purpose. And that's how you begin to feel truly powerful. You start to understand that being powerful isn't about being loud or always right. It's about being honest with yourself and being willing to do the hard work inside. You learn that your feelings are important and that it's okay to feel upset or confused. You start to see that when you allow yourself to feel what you feel, without trying to shut it down, you actually feel better. You begin to realize that people often act out or complain, not because they want attention, but because they need someone to say, "I understand." You learn that validation is not about agreeing with someone, but about letting them know their feelings are real and important. You start to see that when you let yourself feel, you don't have to hurt others with your emotions. You can process them in a safe way, like writing in a journal or crying when you need to. You also learn that when you validate others, you learn how to validate yourself. You start to see that your emotions are not your enemy, they're your guide. They show you what matters, what you want to protect, and what you care about. You begin to build your own set of principles, rules that help you live a life that feels true and strong. You start to understand that principles are not just ideas, they're the foundation of your power. You realize that your life will only improve when you stop chasing outside validation and start building your own way of being. You start to live with more clarity, more courage, and more confidence. You start learning about money principles like keeping costs low, staying out of debt, and saving for the future. You learn that small steps over time add up, just like money grows through interest. The book explains that principles are like natural laws, like gravity, so they don't change. They guide your actions and shape your life. You read about how people who stick to their principles, like paying off debt or investing, end up in a better place. You also learn that inspiration can be misleading because it's easy to get excited about big ideas, but forget about the daily work it takes to make them real. Principles are more important because they help you build a life that feels true and strong. The book gives you questions to start thinking about your own principles. What do you value? What do you want to feel? What makes you uneasy? You realize your purpose isn't just one job or role, it's about being the best version of yourself. You start to understand that your life is shaped by your choices and that you have the power to create the life you want. You begin to see that your purpose is not about being perfect, but about growing, learning, and making a difference in the world. You feel more confident in knowing that you can shape your future by living with clarity, courage, and purpose. You learn that controlling your mind isn't about trying to make it do what you want. Instead, it's about letting your mind be itself and learning how to react to it. The book explains that it's easy to mix up suppressing your feelings with controlling them. When you suppress, you're not really dealing with your emotions. You ignore them, hope they'll go away, and then one day they come out in a big way, like a storm you couldn't stop. But controlling your emotions means you know how you feel, and you choose how to act. You don't let your feelings run wild, but you don't hide from them either. The book gives examples to help you tell the difference. If someone cuts you off in traffic and you don't yell, are you just holding back or making a choice? If your partner says something stupid and you don't react, are you keeping your feelings inside or choosing not to respond? The key is understanding that suppressing is like trying to block a river, and controlling is like building a dam. Both can feel similar, but one is a struggle and the other is a choice. The book says therapy helps people stop hiding from their feelings and start learning how to live with them. It's about being honest with yourself and making choices that feel true. This helps you feel more in control of your life, not just your emotions. The book explains that suppressed emotions work like unconscious biases. For example, confirmation bias is when your brain picks out information that supports what you already believe, even if you're not aware it's happening. On the other hand, controlling your emotions means you're aware of how you feel and choose how to act. When you're suppressing, you don't know your emotions and your actions feel out of control. But when you're controlling, you know how you feel and your actions feel like you're in charge. The key is being aware of your emotions, but still in control of your response. This is important because emotions are temporary, but your behavior is permanent. You're always responsible for how you act. The book also talks about mental strength. It says mental health isn't about being happy all the time or having everything perfect. It's about being able to move through life and handle challenges without being stopped by your own thoughts or feelings. Amy Morin, a well-known expert, lists things mentally strong people don't do. But if you're not there yet, that's where you start. The goal isn't happiness, which is fickle and can make you dependent on things like money or relationships. Instead, the real goal is inner peace. Inner peace is knowing deep down that everything is okay and will always be okay, no matter what happens around you. Finding inner peace isn't about being perfect. It's about learning to trust yourself and staying in the present. The book uses a metaphor about a lake. Your thoughts are like stones that create ripples, but when you stop adding them, the water returns to stillness. Inner peace is always there, but you have to return to it. It's not something you create, but something you choose to go back to. The book also talks about the inner child, the part of you that's innocent and pure. If that part is scared or hurt, it can push you away from your peace. You have to learn to parent that part of yourself, heal it, and make it feel safe. The book says that no matter who you are or what you're trying to do in life, being mentally strong is really important. It's not something you're born with, and it's not always easier if you don't face a lot of problems. In fact, people who go through a lot of hard times often become the strongest mentally. Being strong isn't a fixed thing, it's something you work on every day. The book says you should get a plan, because plans help you fix problems. Mentally strong people plan ahead, think about the future, and do what's best for the long term. When you have a plan, you're not worried or thinking too much. That helps you stay in the moment and feel more calm. Also, the book says you should humble yourself because it's not all about you. People don't care about you as much as you think. No one is judging you the way you're judging yourself. You're not the center of everyone's attention. The more you realize that, the easier it is to relax and not worry so much. Finally, the book tells you to ask for help because you don't have to know everything. It's okay to need support. You're not alone in this. The book talks about how we live in a world where people are really good at one thing and then use that to get other things. You don't have to be good at everything. For example, you don't need to know how to do your taxes or invest your money. You can hire someone else to help. Same with cooking or training. You can learn from a book or ask someone else. And if you're struggling with your mind or feelings, you can talk to a therapist. The point is, you don't have to know everything. You just need to know what you can do and what you can't. That way, you can let go of the pressure to be perfect and focus on what you're good at. The book says you should be kind to yourself and not worry about being perfect. You're allowed to ask for help and learn from others. That makes things easier and helps you feel less stuck. The book talks about how people often think in black and white ways, which makes them feel anxious. They believe if something bad happens, there's no way to fix it. For example, if you lose your job, you think you're a failure. But that's not true. The book says this kind of thinking is a mistake. It's called a false dichotomy. It's when you only see two choices, but there are actually many possibilities. The book explains that anxiety comes from bad thinking, where you jump to conclusions without thinking clearly. You start to believe things that aren't true, and that makes you feel stuck and scared. The book says you need to stop trying to guess the future and start thinking more clearly. You don't have to know everything, but you do need to be honest with yourself about what's possible. This helps you feel more in control and less afraid. The book talks about how people sometimes think they can know what will happen next. They believe their feelings or gut instincts are like a special power that tells them the future. But this kind of thinking is not helpful. It makes people feel like they can't control their lives. Instead of taking action, they sit back and wait for things to happen. The book says this is called psychic thinking, and it's a way of being stuck in the past or scared of the future. It stops people from doing what they can do right now. The book tells readers to stop trying to guess what will happen and start working on what they can change. When you take control of your life, you feel more powerful and less afraid. You start to believe you can shape your future, not just let it happen to you. This helps you move forward with confidence instead of fear. The book says that most of what matters in your life is up to you. You can choose how you act, how you take care of yourself, and how you treat others. These choices make a big difference in how your life turns out. It's easy to think you're just along for the ride, like a small part of a big machine, but that's not true. If you start working on things you can change, like getting better at doing things, staying healthy, building good relationships, and understanding yourself, you'll start to feel more in control. The book says that even though some parts of life are out of your hands, most of what happens is because of what you do. So instead of worrying about things you can't change, focus on what you can. This helps you feel stronger and more confident. You start to believe that you can shape your future, not just wait for it. It's about taking action, not waiting for luck. You begin to see that your life is not just happening to you, it's something you're creating every day. The book talks about how emotions are a natural part of life. You don't have to be happy all the time. Trying to force happiness is not the answer. It can actually make things worse. Real strength comes from being able to deal with all kinds of feelings, like sadness, anger, fear, or worry. If you don't know how to handle these emotions, they can stick around and make you feel stuck. You might even start to feel like you're being controlled by your feelings instead of being in charge of them. The book says that being strong isn't about hiding your feelings or acting like everything is fine. It's about letting emotions come and go, learning from them, and using them to help you grow. When you face a problem, you should feel the anger or sadness, but then use that to take action. This kind of thinking helps you move forward instead of getting stuck in the past. It's not about being calm all the time, but about being able to feel and respond in a healthy way. This helps you build real strength and confidence in your life. The book says that when something goes wrong, you need to think about what happened. You should look at what went wrong, learn from it, and decide how to fix it or change things for the future. Once you've done that, you should let it go. If you keep holding on to the past, you're not really learning from it. You're stuck. The book says that when you've learned from the past, you can use those lessons to make your life better now. You can create the kind of experience you wanted back then. But if you keep focusing on what happened instead of what's happening now or what you want to happen, you'll never move forward. If you feel like you've failed in a big way, it's even more important to let go and try again. Your life isn't over. You didn't fail forever. But if you never try again, you will. The book says that talking about your feelings is important. Things are often more complicated than they seem, and talking helps you understand them better. When things get too confusing inside your head, the book says you need to talk about it. Maybe you can talk to a friend, someone you trust, or even a doctor who helps people with their feelings. If you don't have anyone around, just talk to yourself like you're talking to someone else. It helps to have someone else's voice in your head, even if it's just you. Sometimes you can't see the problem clearly when you're alone. Sharing your thoughts and feelings can make everything clearer. It helps you feel less stuck and more ready to move on. The book says that holding on to your feelings and problems inside can make them worse. But when you let them out, it can help you feel lighter and more in control. You don't have to rush to figure everything out. Take your time. Let your thoughts settle. You're not in a race. You're just trying to understand and grow. You're learning that growing isn't all big changes or sudden shifts. It's more like climbing a mountain. You take small steps, one after another. Each step helps you get closer, even if it feels like you're not moving very fast. Sometimes you might feel like you're going in circles or stuck, but that's just part of the process. Your brain is adjusting, and it takes time. You can't rush it. The book says that if you try to change too much too quickly, you might end up feeling more confused or even going back to old habits. So, it's better to take it slow. Start with small actions, like doing something you've been putting off or making a small change in your routine. These tiny steps add up over time. You'll notice that you're making progress, even if it's not obvious at first. The key is to keep going, even when it feels hard. You're not just changing your life, you're changing how you see yourself and your world. Let each small step be a signal that you're moving forward. You're learning that triggers aren't just random things that happen. They're clues that show you where you're hurt or where you're ready to grow. Instead of seeing them as bad or something to avoid, think of them as messages. They're trying to get your attention so you can work on parts of your life that need healing or change. You can't just ignore the problems or the pain. You have to face them. You have to understand them. This isn't just about getting stronger in your mind. It's about living better, feeling better, and being more at peace. Your discomfort is trying to tell you something important. It's trying to help you move forward. So don't push it away. Listen, learn, change. That's how you grow. That's how you climb the mountain. You're learning that discomfort isn't a bad thing. It's actually a gift. Life gives you discomfort to help you grow. It's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to tell you you're capable of more. It's showing you that you're meant for something bigger. Instead of trying to avoid it or make it go away, you need to listen. You need to learn from it. You need to change. Your life isn't about avoiding pain, it's about learning from it. The real power is in understanding that your mind is holding you back, not the world around you. You have to take control of your thoughts and start moving forward. Now, when it comes to enjoying life, most people say they want to enjoy it, but they struggle to actually feel present. They're stuck in their heads, thinking about the future or worrying about the past. They try too hard to feel happy, and that only makes things worse. When you're in pain, you can't just force yourself to be happy. You have to take a step back. You have to let go of the need to feel good right now. You have to let yourself feel whatever you're feeling. That's the first step to really living. You've been learning that discomfort is actually a gift. It's not something to run from, but something to learn from. Now, the book is talking about happiness. People think they want to enjoy life, but they're stuck in their heads, thinking about the past or worried about the future. They try too hard to feel happy, and that only makes things worse. The truth is, you can't force yourself to feel good. You have to let go of the need to feel happy right now. You have to let yourself feel whatever you're feeling. That's the first step to really living. Happiness isn't something you chase. It's something you allow. It's your natural state. You'll return to it on your own if you let other feelings come up, be felt, and be processed. The more you resist your unhappiness, the less happy you'll be. Trying too hard to feel a certain way only sets you up for failure. You have to stop chasing happiness and start allowing it. You have to stop trying to be happy. You've been learning that discomfort is a gift, not something to run from. Now, the book is talking about happiness. People think they want to feel happy all the time, but they're stuck in their heads, thinking about the past or worrying about the future. They try too hard to feel good, and that only makes things worse. The truth is, you can't force yourself to feel happy. You have to let go of the need to feel good right now. You have to let yourself feel whatever you're feeling. That's the first step to really living. Happiness isn't something you chase. It's something you allow. It's your natural state. You'll return to it on your own if you let other feelings come up, be felt, and be processed. The more you resist your unhappiness, the less happy you'll be. Trying too hard to feel a certain way only sets you up for failure. You have to stop chasing happiness and start allowing it. You have to stop trying to be happy. You've been learning that discomfort is a gift, not something to run from. Now, the book is talking about happiness. People think they want to feel happy all the time, but they're stuck in their heads, thinking about the past or worrying about the future. They try too hard to feel good, and that only makes things worse. The truth is, you can't force yourself to feel happy. You have to let go of the need to feel good right now. You have to let yourself feel whatever you're feeling. That's the first step to really living. Happiness isn't something you chase. It's something you allow. It's your natural state. You'll return to it on your own if you let other feelings come up, be felt, and be processed. The more you resist your unhappiness, the less happy you'll be. Trying too hard to feel a certain way only sets you up for failure. You have to stop chasing happiness and start allowing it. You have to stop trying to be happy. This part of the book talks about how people often try too hard to be happy by trying to control everything. It mentions a writer named Mick Wicking who says that being happy isn't about trying to be better than others or always being in charge. Real happiness comes from being equal with others and not trying to impress or control them. People who always try to prove themselves end up being unhappy. The book also says that happiness is not about big events like vacations or getting a big reward. It's about enjoying small, everyday things like a sunrise, a warm cup of coffee, or a good book. You don't need everything to be perfect to be happy. You just need to be grateful for what you have. It also says that the quality of your relationships matters more than how many friends you have. You should only be in relationships with people you really like and who make your life better. Finally, it encourages you to keep learning new things and to see challenges as chances to grow. In this part of the book, the author talks about how happy people aren't always super happy. They're more at peace than they are excited about everything. That's because happy people are willing to change and grow. They know life is always moving and changing, and if you don't grow, you'll start to feel uncomfortable. The key is to focus on your own growth instead of trying to control everything. The author also says that what you give your energy to matters a lot. People often don't realize that their thoughts shape their lives. If you keep thinking negative thoughts, they'll make you feel bad and act in ways that make things worse. The author uses an old saying, "The wolf that wins is the one you feed." So what you think about becomes how you feel, and then how you live. You should be careful about the thoughts you let into your mind. They'll affect your emotions and your actions. The idea is to focus on what you can control, your own thoughts and growth, instead of trying to make everything perfect. The author talks about how being happy isn't just about doing a lot or always being excited. Sometimes, happiness comes from slowing down and letting things be. She says that happiness is an active choice, but it's also something you have to let happen. You can't force it, but you can make space for it. She explains that people often fill their days with so much stuff that they don't have time to just be. But real happiness comes from taking time for simple things like reading, eating with someone you care about, or just noticing the small moments. You have to plan for that time, not wait for it to happen by accident. The author reminds you that being happy isn't about having everything perfect. It's about making room for peace and joy in your own life. You have to choose what you let into your mind and what you let take up your time. It's about being present and not always rushing to the next thing. When you were a kid, you didn't worry about time. You just played, imagined, and lived in the moment. That's how life was meant to be. But as you grew up, the world started to take that away. You stopped playing because you had to work, study, and take care of things. But if you really want to live well, you have to make time for the things you loved when you were little. Paint, play games, be creative for no reason. It might feel silly, but that's okay. It means you're ready to reconnect with the part of you that still believes in magic and fun. Becoming a master of yourself means taking full responsibility for your life. That includes the things you can't control, too. A true master knows that it's not what happens, but how you respond that shapes your life. Most people don't realize they're creating their own problems and that they have the power to change them. You are not just surviving, you are meant to grow, to transform, to become the person you always dreamed of being. The pain you felt wasn't punishment. It was your mind trying to tell you that you were capable of more, that you deserved better. You have to claim that life, create it, and believe in yourself. When you finally reach the top, you'll look back and realize every step was worth it. You'll be grateful for the journey because it was the only way to become who you were meant to be. So, what are the key lessons from this book? First, don't fight resistance. It's not laziness, it's your brain trying to protect you. Instead of pushing through, ask yourself what you really want, when and why. Once you understand that, you can return to your goals when you're ready. Wanting is the first step to action. Another key lesson is to embrace your upper limit. When you hit it, it means you're growing. Celebrate it, but do it slowly. Small steps help you build a life you enjoy, not just chase happiness. Uprooting is another problem to watch for. If you're always changing jobs or moving, you're not settling. Take time to figure out what you truly want. Clarity is key, not just jumping into things. Don't be perfect when you start. Just show up and try. You can always improve later. Growth starts with action, not perfection. And finally, focus on what you actually do, not just what you plan to do. Count your wins, no matter how small. Every step forward is progress. Let go of guilt and fear, and remember, success is about making your life and others' lives better.